Hello and welcome to Three Questions With. I got my buddy Barry with us. I asked Barry to come on the show today to talk a little bit about photography. Barry, good morning and welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin, good to see you again.
So Barry, here's my first question. I guess when I look at my headshot that's a couple years old, I still see me the way I think I look. And I've had people in the past go, you should update it from time to time. I was joking with you before the show. I had a photographer who did my headshot, and like 3 years later, he's like, you need to do another one. I'm like, why? I look the same. He's like, dude, you lost like 20 pounds. You look totally different. But when we look at our own picture, we see ourselves.
Yep,
So we should
yep.
think about redoing it.
So great question. And by the way, congratulations on losing 20 pounds. I think that's awesome. So that's actually a good point. So a couple of trigger things, right? One, if you have lost weight or you've grown a beard or as we get older, if we're guys, we become more hair challenged sometimes. And you're losing your hair, good time to do a headshot update, right? Every couple of years or so, if you're going through those kinds of changes physically or visually and stuff, definitely a good time to update your headshot. Second thing, maybe you never liked your headshot in the first place, or it really wasn't of high quality. Probably a good idea. That's a good trigger point. You see somebody else's headshot. Sometimes we don't know what we have or where it can be improved until we see somebody else's and go like, oh, wow, that's really good, right? And then by comparison, you look at the lighting or the expression or whatever it is, and you're not happy with it. So that's another trigger point. A third trigger point is like you're changing jobs or changing industries. Or you feel that your smile isn't right, or you've never just like the look that you have, or maybe you were as a guy, you were in a suit and tie, and now you're in an industry where nobody's wearing a tie anymore, right? So you want to dress down a little bit. So those are kind of trigger points for when it would be a good idea to get a new headshot. 3 years is probably, unless you're going through a lot of changes, 3 years is probably a good time, as much as I'd love to shoot you every year or whatever, 2 to 3 years is probably a good time to start thinking about that or looking at it, right? You shouldn't go as long as 5 years, because generally speaking, you become more handsome in 5 years and women get more attractive 5 years later. So, again, you want to keep it somewhat fresh, but that's probably those are good metrics to think about.
So Barry, you led me in with the word expression. And there's times, as someone who's on LinkedIn all day looking for people to talk to, the expression on the person's face scares me away because they look,
Yeah.
and I understand, there's a reason for different expressions, but I've had some that just looks like, they're going to yell at me if I call them.
Yep.
Think about the image you're sending through this picture too, correct?
Absolutely. You hit the nail right on the head, because that expression is the thing that's going to create the first impression when somebody sees your image. And your reaction to somebody who looks like they're mean or whatever it is, everybody's going to have that reaction, right? So you want your expression to be consistent with the job and the industry that you're in. So even a criminal attorney, which you could argue the person needs to look tough, but they also still need to look like you can talk to them, right? They need to look more confident. They need to look more like, they know what the hell they're doing, but not mean or anything. So, and the other side of that is some people have expressions which are just way over the top, too much energy or whatever it is, and it doesn't match that job, like a criminal attorney, right? If you look at two criminal attorneys and one of them looks like they're ready to do battle, the other one looks like a guy you want to go out with, or a woman who want to have a drink with, and they're having a party, you're probably going to go with the guy or the woman who looks like they're tough and they know what they're doing, right? So the expression is what is a very vital part of that overall look. And you want to make sure that it creates the right impression for what you want people to come away thinking or feeling when they see your image.
Okay, my last question is around photoshopping. So
Okay.
I've had my friends who've had their picture photoshopped One guy in particular, he has a big neck, Barry. So he had the
Yep.
guy Photoshop his neck, and I'm not sure how it's holding his head up anymore. It
Yeah.
just so, like, you have no neck now. Like, so, I know there's a time and place for Photoshop, but we just have to accept that we have aged. When you
Right.
pull the grays out of the rest of my hair, I'm like,
Yep.
that's not who I am. Being
Yep.
bored, right?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. So what I tell my clients is, look, I'm going to go in with Photoshop and I'm going to fix the blemishes and the temporary things and everything. But you don't want to go in and radically change how you look, right? I'm not going to remove the gray hairs unless you're going to go do your roots or whatever it is. And if you're going to do that, then come back in and we'll reshoot it, right? And I've had clients say, oh, can you make me look 20 years younger? And I could, but then when you show up and meet the person who saw your image, they're going to look at you like, and whether they say something or not is not the point.
Yeah.
What they're going to think is, at some level, A, wow, you're pretty vain,
Yep.
or B, what the hell did you do? Well, that's not you,
Yeah.
all of these things, right? So Photoshop, and I use Photoshop, it's a wonderful tool, but you have to be careful about it. Same thing with skin smoothing. I've seen some photographers in the Boston area who do headshots and they look like the cover of Glamour magazine for either a guy or GQ for a guy, and I'm like, but that doesn't look real. So you want to go in, and what I do is I go in with a very, very light touch. I rarely do skin smoothing. I rarely do thinning and stuff. But what you can do is photographically, you can turn or angle the subject in a way that's more flattering. So people who are broader shouldered, who have big necks, there's things you can do positionally with their body to make them look a little bit slimmer. If they wear darker clothing makes you look slimmer. And then finally, there's lighting. You can use and adjust lighting and try different lighting styles that can also make people look slimmer. So there's a lot of things you can do without going into Photoshop and actually, moving pixels around and changing how people look, that will still represent who they are, but make them look better than, if they're just standing there in front of the camera, et cetera. So.
Yep. That's awesome. So Barry, what's the best way for people to reach out to you? How can they learn more?
Love to talk with you. So just go to my website at www.barrybraunsteinphotography.com. Or you can reach me via phone, 781-237-0495. You can either book sessions on my website. You can also book a free consult. Happy to talk with you on the phone or whatever. I have a studio here in Wellesley. I also go on location for my corporate clients. And I love what I'm doing and having a ball, and I'd love to work with everyone.
Barry, I appreciate you taking a few minutes to call onto the show. And as always, thanks for being my friend.
Thank you, Kevin. I appreciate it. Take care.
Bye now.